No comments at the top this time because nobody asked me to do this. There were a lot of people on the last Dragon Ball video asking about where Hachiyak was though, so, you know, why not? Let's just do all of them. Today, we will be going through every Dragon Ball OVA / TV special. It's basically just all the stuff that I didn't talk about last time. I'm gonna find a way to make them all canon. There's not a lot this time around, but just to give you an idea of how much work went into this, just one OVA took up a whole page worth of text. And I don't mean double spaced either. Leave a like for your boy real quick. Yes, you. Why don't you leave a like yet? Let's just get started.
Take your chance, be now, in my maze, I'm
Starting off strong. I mean, I could just say that this takes place in the GT timeline. A lot of people in the last video brought to my attention that GT does have to exist in the same universe as all the Dragon Ball movies, simply because all the movie characters show up on Earth during the Super 17 saga, you know, when Dr. Mew and Gero break out of hell, and it's a long story. A very similar concept actually happens in this OVA, where we have Turles, Slug, Cooler, as well as Frieza all reappearing as these artificial ghost warriors, I guess, made out of this evil, nasty tuffle gas. Obviously, this has no other choice but to take place during that latter half of the Cell Saga, because Gohan is a Super Saiyan here. GT timeline or not only is, you know, the actual story canon to this because Frieza's here, but also at least movies 3, 4, and 5 are canon to this as well, because we literally see flashbacks of Cooler, Turles, and Slug getting defeated. And also, I guess, movie 8 as well, because Goku literally compares Hachiak's strength to Broly. So we gotta find a way to make these work without completely fucking up the timeline. We can't use my theory from the last video where I just had Tree of Might and Lord Slug taking place in this alternate timeline where Gohan dodges and Piccolo helps Goku beat the Saiyans, because then that would throw off the rest of the story too much. We need to make it to at least the Android Saga without any major deviations. Allow me to steal one last idea from my comment section. What if the Saiyans just arrived on time? It could literally be that simple. Or what if they just arrived late? Regardless, if Goku makes it back to Earth before Vegeta and Nappa arrive, then all those people wouldn't need to sacrifice themselves against Nappa, allowing them to all be alive and well, able to fight against Turles and Slug in movies 3 and 4. That would give us plenty of time for Turles and Slug to show up and do their whole thing. We can just ignore for now that they use the Dragon Balls in both of those movies, which would mean twice in 1 month, which makes no sense. And Gohan growing back his tail during the Tree of Might, I guess, because he would have to do that during the fight against Vegeta. We can just ignore that for now. I don't get paid enough. The only real major problem with the Saiyans arriving late like this, though, and everybody surviving, is that then I guess they wouldn't need to go to Namek to use their Dragon Balls to revive everybody, because, you know, if somebody died, Piccolo would still be alive, meaning that they could just use Earth's Dragon Balls instead. This would also mean that nobody would be there to stop Frieza from enslaving the Namekians and becoming immortal. And Frieza is clearly dead in this movie, so again, the Namek arc and subsequently Trunks killing him when he gets to Earth, this all must still happen. The only reason why they would need to use the Namekian Dragon Balls, again, is if Kami dies, or if somebody that's already died before dies again. And sorry, Tien, but I don't think anybody is making a trip across space just to revive Chaozu. So Piccolo has to be the one to kick the bucket. In this universe, Goku can still easily defeat Nappa because Kaio can. Even after all that training in Otherworld, Vegeta could still overwhelm him. Even with all the rest of the Z fighters there, I don't think it will make that much of a difference, because Vegeta can simply just one-shot them all, especially if he goes full monkey mode. Right? Maybe Piccolo is still put in some sort of situation where he's forced to sacrifice himself. Maybe to save Gohan, maybe to save Goku, you know, kind of as a way to paying him back for earlier, you know, with the whole fight against Raditz. That would be poetic. Now, if that happens, the only way to get Piccolo back and Kami and the Earth's Dragon Balls would be to go to Namek. Bulma can still take Gohan and Krillin, just the 3 of them, all on that first trip to Namek, because most likely Gohan and Krillin would have the least recovery time, just like in the original story. And then the rest of them, Tien and Chaozu and Yamcha, they can just stay home and train. You know, licking their wounds by how they got utterly embarrassed by Nappa or Vegeta. And then the entire Namek saga can happen as it does. The Cooler movie can then happen during the 3-year time skip like it does in the original story, probably in a world where Goku kills Frieza with the Spirit Bomb to make his Super Saiyan transformation in that movie make more sense. Another theory from the comment section. Shout out to y'all. And then the Android saga can happen. As for making sense of Broly's mention in this movie, honestly, I'm just gonna double down on my theory that Broly happens in a world where they defeat Cell before he can become perfect. Because again, I've never liked that idea that Broly happens during that 10-day rest period. And then instead of the Cell games, this OVA can just happen as a direct sequel to movie 8. What does this mean for the Buu saga and Goku going to Otherworld and getting Super Saiyan 3 and learning fusion and all of that? I mean, the title of the video is to make every OVA canon, not also make every OVA canon and then explain the ramifications on the rest of the story afterwards. It's only the first one of the video and I'm already fighting for my life.
I'm fighting for my life. Y'all killing me with this.
Alright, hopefully the rest of these won't be as difficult as the Hachiak OVA. Because the main character of this story is Pan's grandchild, which will be Goku's great-great-grandchild, that means that this is meant to take place 100 years after the events of GT. However, I will say still before the 64th Tenkaichi Budokai, because A, Vegeta Jr. is nowhere to be found in this OVA. Goku and Vegeta Jr. meet during that tournament. And B, this special actually shows us how Goku Jr. first achieved Super Saiyan, which he was able to tap into at will during the World Martial Arts Tournament Finals, Junior Division. There's no way to tell exactly how long before the tournament this is meant to take place, but I mean, given that Goku Jr. looks to be about the same age, same height, he's in the same fit, just looking a little bit dusty. That tells me that the tournament can't be too long after this because Goku never changed his clothes, right? I see this as basically Goku Jr.'s equivalent to Goku, you know, back in the day, training under Roshi, preparing him for the 21st World Martial Arts Tournament. It's just that this time it's Pan training Goku Jr. for the 64th World Martial Arts Tournament. There's good news and there's bad news with this one. The good news is that we get explicitly told when this is meant to take place by the narrator. The bad news is that it takes place during that 10-year period between when they defeat Buu and the end of Z. But because this came out before Dragon Ball Super and Dragon Ball Daima, it gets a little bit messy. However, I got more good news for you. Goku barely fights in this OVA, which makes all of that narrative chaos surrounding us at the moment pretty irrelevant. This is supposed to take place 2 years after Buu. Buu is defeated in age 774, which means that Tarble pulls up on Earth age 776. So yes, that means Daima is supposed to happen between these two events a year before this OVA, because we know Daima takes place a year after Buu. Again, Goku barely fights in this special episode. The most he does is go Super Saiyan just to show Tarble some of his power, and then a quick little Kamehameha at the end. There's no way to tell whether or not he has access to Super Saiyan 4 in this, but if you want my running theory, I don't think he's able to tap into it at will anymore anyway. Something about Demon World magic related shenanigans and stuff. Hey, if Toriyama was still alive, I could totally see that being the actual reason. Rest in peace to my goat. To make this even easier to fit in the timeline, it's not like Abo and Kato were these world-ending threats or anything. They kind of beat him up and then the status quo returns to normal by the next day. I think like even before the day is over. They become friends and they all have a meal together. Tarble is pretty much canon already because he's brought up twice, once during Battle of Gods when they're looking for Saiyans to help with the ritual, and then again during a flashback at the beginning of DBZ Broly. So honestly, all of this that I'm doing right now is just over explaining. Yeah, this is just like a quick little afternoon thing. It's not really that big of a deal, but it's still plenty of time before Beerus shows up. Oh, I guess the one major contradiction here, you know, you got the press and stuff, news reporters asking Mr. Satan about the new hotel that he's building in commemoration of defeating Buu, and this doesn't really make sense because of, you know, the Z Fighters make a wish to erase the memories of Buu from everybody in the world. That doesn't make any sense, but I mean, let's be real. I wouldn't put it past Mr. Satan to, even after the wish was made, to conjure up this story of how he defeated Buu and everybody had their memories wiped. And then everybody would just believe him because, you know, it's Mr. Satan. Obviously, he would save the world and we would have no idea. I could totally see him doing that just simply because he loves the attention, right? Like Cell was a long time ago. This might be another one of those, oh yeah, this is just the history of Dragon Ball from this timeline over here. Reverse butterfly effect kind of thing, right? That I turned the first 3 Dragon Ball movies into. I think we're all in agreement that GT and Super take place in separate timelines, right? Just like with Path to Power, I don't see why this can't just be the story of Bardock in the GT timeline instead of the main, especially because Bardock as a character gets rebooted in Super already anyway, as well as Goku's origin story. He's basically Superman now, as indicated by the type of armor he's wearing in this OVA. This is obviously meant to be Z Bardock, who technically now is non-canon, and also technically is canon, because of what Toyotaro said. At first glance, it shouldn't affect history that much. Regardless of how long he lived, Bardock would still die long before the Saiyans ever arrived to Planet Plant. But now that I'm thinking about it, if he really was sent back in time like this, then I guess he wouldn't be there in the future to stand up to Frieza. And that could really fuck things up. Timeline shenanigans all over this one. Okay, hear me out. What if the Bardock we see in Dragon Ball Super, new Bardock minus Bardock, what if that Bardock is just the reincarnation of this Bardock? A far removed descendant to the original Super Saiyan that looks exactly the same as him, similar to the Goku Jr. situation, right? Right? You follow me? Future Bardock and his family only end up being low-class warriors because OG Bardock did that whole, cowboy wandering Ronin thing when he marched off into the sunset, basically his true legacy being lost to time. This OVA literally starts with unexplained time travel. Nothing is off limits. And I say unexplained, but later on down the line, we actually find out that Toa was the one behind this. And since we're here, this is technically canon to Xenoverse. I could say that this is just another one of the billions of variations of the timeline, which are all canon now because there's no rules anymore when it comes to Dragon Ball continuity. I don't know. I'm kind of digging the whole reincarnation thing. Goku's basically Naruto now. He is the child of prophecy. Y'all get a 2-for-1 special with this one because I'm gonna find a way to make this work for both Dragon Ball and One Piece. Small spoiler alert, One Piece fans, for anybody that hasn't finished Wano yet. Still haven't seen Toriko yet. Sorry.
How could you?
Maybe that's a video series for the future. Let me know if you want it. Looking at everyone's ages here, starting with the Dragon Ball side. For Goten and Trunks specifically, yeah, this most likely takes place during that 4-year period after Buu, before Beerus pulls up. Whether it's during that year before Daima happens, or during the year that Tarble shows up after that, or maybe during the 2+ years of downtime after all of that, before Beerus wakes up. Plenty of time where they should all be available to do this random tournament on some remote island, somewhere else in the world that is also, I guess, close to the Grand Line, wherever the Grand Line would be on the Dragon Ball map, I guess. Let's just say, for the sake of simplicity, that it takes place during age 774, the same year that Buu was defeated. As for the Straw Hats and why they're able to be here, I mean, this clearly takes place post-time skip. Luffy has the scar, so that means that this can only really take place sometime before Punk Hazard, because after Punk Hazard, I mean, that's when we got like Law and Momonosuke and Kinemon sailing with the crew. And then it only gets worse once we start heading deeper into the Yonko saga, because the crew starts splitting up, different teams for different arcs, you know what I'm saying? And then it can't happen after the Yonko saga, after Kaido and Big Mom are defeated either, because then Jinbei should be a part of the crew. In the manga, chapter 654 to be exact, once the Straw Hats finally resurface after leaving Fishman Island, they end up right outside of Punk Hazard, immediately kicking off the next arc, which means that this shouldn't be able to happen, right? But in the anime, there are a couple of filler episodes tied to Film Z around this time where the Straw Hats get a chance to explore the new world for a little bit before they jump straight into Punk Hazard, which gives us just enough time for the Straw Hats to make a pit stop on this random island to compete in this tournament, because obviously Luffy wants some food. So, just to wrap things up, for the Dragon Ball crew, I feel like this takes place during age 774, the same year that Buu was defeated, before Daima. They have a whole year. For example, I'm thinking like, around DBZ episode 288, where Goku's just, hanging out, doing stuff before the time skip kicks in. For the One Piece side of this could take place right after Film Z, right before anime episode 579, which is when they arrive at Punk Hazard. I'm thinking in the, travel time in One Piece is a thing, like the day or two that it takes them to sail from wherever Film Z was, I forgot, days after leaving Fishman Island, unlike in the manga, where it's a very immediate thing. Apologies for the repurposed footage on this one, but this was only ever a thing for like a summer. back in 2017. A 4D attraction at Universal Studios Japan. It was only ever shown there. And it was only ever there for like a month. As for where this takes place on the timeline, I mean, it definitely has to go after Resurrection F, right? Because Goku and Vegeta are using their blue forms here. What is this Broly transformation? I don't know. All I know is that it's definitely Z Broly because he isn't tan and he doesn't have the cool scar. So I guess that means all the other Z Broly movies exist in this timeline. Or at least the first one. As much as it pains me to admit defeat, I do feel like this would have to take place in that universe where they fight Broly during the 10 days before the Cell games, just because the rest of Dragon Ball Z has to happen after that. And then, yeah, you know, after getting defeated off elsewhere, training in space for all these years, he can just show back up during Dragon Ball Super, and here he is. If you really want Bio Broly to work with this, and you know, saying all that, I don't think there's too many people that enjoy Bio Broly's existence. Just have somebody revive him, I guess, like they do Frieza. It's just somebody random. It could even be that wizard guy from the second Broly movie. He's the one that's responsible for Bio Broly becoming a thing anyway, right? But yeah, I mean, honestly, you could just ignore the second and the third movie and just have the first one. It's confirmed that he survives the end of the first movie, so I could totally see him, again, simply just not showing up during the Buu arc, which could, you know, make things more messy and difficult for me. Work smarter, not harder. Blame it on the Zenkai Buus, I don't know, but he gets this new god form, and then he just shows up during Dragon Ball Super instead. Around this time, Goku and Vegeta were spending a lot of their days training on Beerus's planet, but there was 5 whole days where they were both back on Earth, recruiting people for the tournament against Universe 6, right? I can totally see them hosting this mini practice tournament, you know, just as a warm-up because it's been a while since the last tournament. And then a wild Z Broly appears, and then Goku has to fuse with us, the audience, to beat him. Yes, you heard me right. We, the audience, canonically fuse with Goku in this OVA to beat God Broly. I always knew I was OP. So I guess that means that 2017 in our world is canonically parallel to age 779 in the Dragon Ball world. That's the year that the Universe 6 tournament happens, which means that currently in the Dragon Ball world, if it's 2025 in our world, then it will be age 787, which is 1 year before Cell kills Future Trunks and steals the time machine to go back in time and become perfect. And 2 years before the start of GT. In case you were wondering. Not really, you know, too long of a video today. Kind of charging up my next big banger. But in the meantime, you know what I'm saying? Show your boys some love. Check out some other videos. Leave a like in the comments. Tell me how much you hate me or how much I got it wrong or how much of a nerd I am. I don't care. Let me know what you guys will want to see next. I think there's still some more Dragon Ball stuff I could do. Video games, maybe. Perhaps. Until then, I'm out. See y'all next time.
If it's me, I apologize. I'm just high, so sometimes I'll just emphasize. I'm just shy, so I really need to emphasize. After this performance, check my vitals, make sure that I'm still alive.